I'm guessing you have guessed what we are going to do. No, you have not guessed yet. But then don't get too excited. We are not going to set up the tank today. Today also is a video on understanding a lot of things before you get ready to set up. Now, in the previous video or the last video, I had explained to you the relationship between an aquascape and the elements of nature. Earth, fire, water, space and air. In any order, it's fine. Because we are not going to actually follow any exact order as such. Because we will be going back and forth into different elements. And it's for you to understand. Now, today we are going to see how you can connect your imagination, your story, your concept, your theme to the space you want to have or you should have, or the story or the theme demands. See, you have an imagination of a jungle. If you decide that you are going to make that because of whatever your constraints are, in a 1 feet tank, your imagination may not sit correctly. You want your aquascape to portray your imagination. So you want that space to be correct. Otherwise you are compromising. Now, suppose you have a very simple, very basic imagination, not a problem. Why would you need a 5 feet or a 6 feet tank? Because then it's an overkill. Something that you can do in 2 feet, you do in 2 feet. Something that you need a 4 feet, you do in a 4 feet. Now, my imagination for an aquascape, and that is something we are going to discuss through the next few videos as we set up this, is something very interesting. But before I get to my imagination, I want to tell you a few things. Once you figure out your imagination and the size of tank, which we will do together just now, then it's very easy for you to figure out what kind of soil, what kind of sand, what kind of light, what kind of filter. So again, if you figure out your imagination and the space required, then you can figure out the earth, the air, the water, fire and all of the other elements also. So don't get too worked up about which one to use and what to use, not just now. Okay, we'll come to it. Independently, we will discuss each and every element and each and every product that you can use, okay, to make your aquascape really, really interesting. Now, coming back to our original point. My imagination for this aquascape, or actually my imagination for an aquascape, was life being infinite, infinity of life, or everlasting. Something like that. That was my thing, where life is there always. Like for example, a tree, it never dies. That was the whole concept. Here my imagination is that we had a beautiful tree, hundreds of years old, amazing tree, that was living and was giving life to a lot of other animals, squirrels, birds, insects, so on and so forth. Birds were making nests inside the tree. Many years later, and many decades or many centuries later, the tree also, at some point had to give up, because a lot of birds had made holes in it, insects had made holes in it, and general decay was happening. Life was getting over. Other trees had taken or become bigger than this tree. So at some point started withering out. I won't say die, because this is again infinite life, life forever. So at some point it broke during a heavy rain and fell into the water. There again it started giving life to other organisms, small crustaceans, insects, shrimp. So life never ends. So this is a life that is either living or providing life continues. So that is the whole concept. So for that, I needed a certain kind of wood that looks old, that gives that sense of everlasting life. And the wood that I found was all about 1.5 to 2 feet long, or slightly more, to kind of fulfill my imagination. So for that, I would require at least a 4 feet or a 5 feet tank. So that's why we have a 4 feet by 1.5 feet by 1.5 feet tank, which is ideal for bringing my imagination to life. See, most people are going to say, "Arey, budget nahi hai. How can we figure it out?" I think, if you don't have the budget, then don't make the aquascape. Sorry, I'm not being rude, but I'm being practical. Because if you want your aquascape, your imagination to come through, then you do it right. Because the more you compromise, the more unsatisfied you will be. Because you look at the aquarium and say, something is missing. And that's not a happy place to be. That's not a nice place to be. You want that aquascape to be perfect, at least in your eyes. The world can go to hell. your eyes, your imagination has to be perfectly fit into that aquascape. And that's what I want. That's what I believe. That's what I will do. So this understanding of your concept and what space it requires is very crucial, because to fulfill your concept, you need certain elements like wood, elements like stone. So once you have that in place, then you know what space you need. Once you have the space fixed, then you can say, okay, this is the amount of space I have. That means again here 4 feet by 1.5 feet by 1.5 feet, which is 120 centimeters by 45 centimeters by 45 centimeters, which holds about 250 liters. Let's keep it as 200 liters. So 200 liters of water will require what kind of filtration? Again, we've discussed this in most of my filtration videos. You need the filter to at least filter the whole volume of water 4 times in an hour, minimum 4 times. Between 4 and 6, ideal. You don't want 10 times filtration. That is an overkill. Even if you have 6, 7, chalta hai. But that's okay, because you need a good circulation. You need a filter that will work for your requirement. Work in a manner that will help the plants, which will help the whole ecosystem survive, which will create the maximum amount of bacteria to take care of your ecosystem. We understood last time. We are not in the hobby of aquascaping or aquarium keeping. We are in the hobby of keeping the water clean. Also meaning we are in the hobby of growing bacteria. So if that does not happen, then your system does not function, right? So again, you are coming to the water element. Then you know how much soil or substrate layer you need, because you have an aquascape in mind. So you basically have the wood, you know what you want to place or how you want to place it. Okay, you keep everything in place. Then you say, oh, okay, boss, this is the plant I want here. This is the plant I want here. I want tall plants at the back. Each plant should be about 8-9 inches tall. That means you need to give at least 6 inches below for it to hold properly, for the root to grow properly. Because if the root doesn't grow well and there's not enough soil, that 6-8 inches will not happen. And even if it happens, it will fall because there's no support. Similarly, if you want sand in front, then how much sand will I use? Why will I use that sand? What does that look and feel? Is it going to be that little bit of a sandy front and then plants growing towards the back? What is that sand going to do to my aquascape? So you know what you need or how much you need. Because ideally, any 9 kg or 9 liter bag of soil is apt for a 60 liter tank. Okay, that is a 2 by 1 by 1. Here we have 4, so that means half. So 1 bag. We have 1.5 width, so that's again half is extra. So you'll need about 4 to 5 bags depending on how you create your aquascape or how you layer your aquascape. Then again, water element, you have a filtration system, you need proper biomedia for the bacteria, so on and so forth. What plants are you going to grow? Are you going to grow only low light plant? Are you going to grow high light plant? Then you choose the right kind of light or the fire element, which is actually going to bring life into your system. Because without light, there is no photosynthesis. Without photosynthesis, there is no plant. So what light should I use? Again, there is that whole element of budget being apt and whatever, that will keep that aside. I will say that if in your imagination you have a certain element, you have a certain way or the certain colors that you need or certain vibrance that you need or certain darkness that you need, then you will use a light that will help the plant grow in that manner. Which brand, which company is a secondary issue. The quality of light that you are going to provide the plants is the primary issue. Then there are some basic elements. How to utilize the space? How do you utilize that space? How best do you keep your aquascape so that you are able to maintain the space in the right manner? What happens if a piece of wood is touching the glass? How will you maintain it? Ideal thumb rule is that you have a 2-inch space between the glass and the piece of wood. There is at least a 2-inch space so that you can clean the glass from all sides. There are aquascapes where you will see that it's gone to the edge of the tank, that is the sides. So the whole aquascape is to the edge. But then that's totally packed. So that doesn't matter because your front image is what you want. That is fine. But you can't have a wood touching the front because it will spoil the whole look. So these are aesthetics. So we will discuss how the space is going to be managed and how you will manage the aesthetics also. Then of course you have your golden ratio. Is it in ratio? What is golden ratio? Why should there be a golden ratio? Is it important to have? Why? Will it look really good if it is in golden ratio? I'm not going to say that this is right or this is wrong. Anything and everything in nature is in golden ratio. 1:1.6 standard ratio. Your human hand 1:1.6. Finger 1:1.6. 1:1.6. Everything is in golden ratio. Okay, if you see pretty women, you draw a line, very beautiful, Deepika Padukone, somebody like that, whoever you like, you draw a line exactly in front of the face. This side to this side will be in 1:1.6. There will be a difference between the left and the right side. It's always going to happen. That's why golden ratio is important. So again, if you draw a line here, you need one part and you need 1.6 here. Simple terms, 1:2. You don't have to get too technical and put on measuring tape and measure and all that. Approximately, visually, if there is a 1:2, it's fine. That means if you have 2 pieces of wood here, you want 3 pieces of wood here. This I'm saying because in simpler terms, if you take it, when you use odd numbers or prime numbers and you balance it out, one being less, one being slightly more, you will come to golden ratio, approximately. But you will kind of match it there. That's a simpler way to do it. But then when we're doing the aquascape, we will discuss that. So the idea now is to understand your imagination. Does it have the right amount of space? Are you able to correlate your imagination into the tank or the space, and is it correct? How do you understand that? How do you understand that? Right? It's not as complicated as you think, or when I'm saying it sounded complicated to me also. It's not complicated. You have your imagination. You have a concept. You have a story. Now, in that story, try to see in your mind how it looks. Simple terms. Does it look in widescreen or does it look in a shorter space? If it is in widescreen, you need a wider picture. You want to show more. You need a wider tank. If the image or the imagination is very limited, then you don't need that wide a tank. You can work with a smaller tank. You don't need to go rectangle. You can go square. That's up to you now. I can only give you direction. I can't tell you this is the size of tank. But yes, if you submit your homework like we had discussed, images of what your imagination would be, then we could actually go and say, this will look good in this kind of tank or this kind of tank. That's again, suggestions can always be provided. That can happen in our Zoom class. So like I said, I have a tree, I have a big tree, my imagination fit or the wood that I found, so my space is depending on the wood. Because I have wood pieces that are 1.5 feet long, so I need a bigger tank. I can actually go 1 feet bigger and it will still work. But then that is where I have a space constraint and I'm trying to figure that out. But generally you need to see, you need to imagine what all are you going to show. Now, your imagination in your mind is always 3-dimensional. But what you show here as an image or a picture is usually 2-dimensional. When you see from front, when you see an image, a photograph, it's 2-dimensional. It's not 3-dimensional. But your imagination is 3-dimensional. So don't just imagine the front. Imagine the depth also. What is happening there? What if you are standing there and walking to the back? What all will you see? Left and right, you look. What will you see? You have a 20 feet path in a jungle. Every step you take further towards the end of that path, you're going to see something different. The wood coming across, maybe going separate some other way, something has fallen, there's an animal there. They're all going to be different sections and you have to build that section. That is the depth perception that you will give in your tank. Multiple layers have to be there. So you need to have that layering. You need to have that understanding. It's not a 2-dimensional picture from the front. Okay, it's a 3-dimensional space and you have to use that correctly. Now, this is also a very, very good time for you to test your water. Your source water, your home water, test it. This is the time you should do it. You know your aquascape, you know your imagination, you know your space. Is my water going to be correct for my aquascape? So you are preparing now. Let's say you have hard water. For whatever good or bad reason, you are in a location where there is hard water and I need soft water. I need 6.5 pH for my aquascape. How do I manage that? What will I do? Will I mix RO water and some hard water? Will I just use RO water? Prepare now. Because when you mix water, the TDS may go down but the pH may remain the same. But you need a certain pH. So what is it that you are going to do has to be decided now at this juncture. How am I going to manage the most important thing of my aquarium, which is water? Because without water, your aquascape has no meaning. Then it's not aquascape, then it is landscape. Because the aqua is gone, your water is not working for you or it's not helping your ecosystem. So at this point, check your water and make sure that your water is going to be helpful to your aquascape, not detrimental. What metals are there? Are there any heavy metals in the water? All this has to be checked and tested and made sure. Here we are trying to understand your imagination and what space you will require. This is something we can discuss further in the Saturday Zoom class, where we can understand your aquascape and what size of a tank will match that. Because you don't want to compact your aquascape. You want it to be free. You want it to have the right kind of movement. You want the right kind of water movement. You want the right kind of plant growth. And everything needs a certain amount of space. Okay, certain kinds of plant need certain kind of space to grow. You can't put one plant on top of another, no? You can't do that. So you need the right kind of space. So is your imagination suiting your space, or rather is the space that you are keeping in mind, will it suit your imagination? This has to be clear now. Once your mind is clear on that, then we can take the next step into actually aquascaping the tank, which is what we will do in the next class. We will try and understand how this aquascape will look. Then we will try and understand what kind of soil requirement is there. Now, an important point in this is the kind of glass you want to use. I would always go for an extra clear glass because I want to see something that's beautiful. So I would go for the best quality glass. This is something that is totally your decision, your choice. You can decide, I want an ADA kind of aquarium which has sapphire crystal glass. I want a Oase kind of aquarium which has diamond glass. Or I want to just buy extra clear glass and get one aquarium made for me. All up to you. I would always go for the best because I want my aquascape to be the best. So this is one element. So once you decide on the space, then you know what size of tank you need. Then you can decide what kind of quality of glass you require for that particular tank. And importantly, don't use tempered glass or toughened glass. That's always a myth. There is a problem. Toughened glass will crack faster or shatter faster than normal glass. Remember, water has a certain amount of pressure and it's pushing the glass outwards. So if there is a slight pinprick also, a toughened glass will shatter. Okay, because there's a solid amount of pressure from inside. 200 liters of water, right? It is forcing the glass out. So you need glass that will have a little bit of play. Normal glass always works better. We can also discuss what size of tank, what thickness of glass, but that is not a big discussion in my mind. Okay, because we're more focusing on the aquascape. But ideally, if you're going to do 3 feet or 4 feet and more, look at a 12 mm glass. Okay, that's what I would suggest. Less than that, you can always look at an 8 mm glass. If it's really large, then of course 19 mm or 20 mm glass. I'm hoping you get the whole gist of trying to figure out the space with relation to your ecosystem. So again, we'll all meet on Saturday. We can have the same discussion. So Saturday, same, your Zoom link that has been sent to you on WhatsApp is going to work for the next few weeks. Okay, so you can use that. And people who are not connected to our WhatsApp number, please see our initial videos. There is a number here. Please connect so that we can send you these links so that you can get onto our Zoom chat also. Check this number out. WhatsApp us, okay, so that we know who you are. Ideally, WhatsApp with your actual name and your YouTube channel name, right? See, for example, a friend of ours, he's got a very funny channel name called Crazy Something, but his actual name is Parvez. Okay, so like that. So we want both, correct? So that we can connect with you. And we can send you the Zoom link and any other details or any other programs that are happening. Gold Max members, like I promised you, very soon, because we're launching the soil, we will tell you how you can get your bag of soil and fertilizers, vagera, for your aquascape. Okay, of course, we'll send you a small brief on WhatsApp again. So that's why please connect with us. Okay, so I'll see you all on Saturday. Bye bye.